one of the issues that I have been having with Link is that when he was at Honor, he was a very social dog. I mean, when we wanted to know how social another dog was, they had to come and meet Link. And
Sure.
he was just the guy, you know, who would just let us know how stable that other dog was. But now that I've had him like maybe 5 years, now he's becoming more leash reactive, more protective. I went to the dog park recently, and he was out running, playing, but then he kept coming, you know, back at me. And anytime another dog would approach me, it could be an issue
Sure.
with him. And so then I would just start walking away and doing things. And at one point, this park had some agility equipment, and I would be working with him on some of the agility equipment. Any dog would come near, he would become an idiot.
Sure.
He would be going after the other dog, and it was just
Okay.
like
Now, was he actually trying to attack them or just kind of making a lot of noise and stuff?
making a lot of noise, I
Sure.
suppose. But I had him on leash, so I don't know. I'm not sure where it would have gone. Probably.
You had him on leash at the
Never
dog
attacked
park?
Anybody? He's never been.
At the dog park, he was on the leash?
Yes.
Okay.
Just because we were doing the agility stuff.
Sure,
I
sure.
was just trying to teach him how to go around and do some of it, which isn't a normal thing for us. We are not dog park people.
Sure.
And it was just the same thing is happening. He's had friends as we walk around the block. Now some of these dogs are approaching us, and he's becoming reactive.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't understand why now he's becoming more leash reactive, or on leash reactive, or is it protective of me, or whatever it is.
Sure.
So I thought I wanted to work with that, and I thought this might be a great setting because we have other
Definitely.
dogs and people.
So, out of all the people that have dogs here, how many of you are struggling with like leash reactivity issues? Okay. So, yeah, a handful of them. I would definitely say it's one of the more common behavioral issues that I get dogs in for, right? In addition to that, obviously, like dog aggression issues too. But leash reactivity is one of those things where, you know, half of the battle is understanding, you know, obviously why the dog is rehearsing these behaviors in the first place, and two, understanding like why certain social situations for your dogs are more important than others, right? Or more beneficial for your dog than others, right? So you were saying like he had like a handful of friends that he would interact with, what, on the walk, kind of? So like you'd just kind of meet them, he'd go say hi to them, and okay, cool. So, you know, obviously one of the big things that I preach a lot is not doing on-leash greetings with your dogs, right? Even if, you know, like, say next door, Joe's got, you know, a buddy who, you know, has a dog who your dog and his dog are best friends. We tend to see problems arise because of those on-leash greetings, because what happens is you're out on your walk, right? And, you know, how most dogs socialize is they move around. They're pretty active, right? They're bouncing around, they're jumpy, stuff like that. And the problem is when they're on a 6-foot leash, they can't do those things. They can kind of do those things to a degree, but the problem is they're restrained in some way, shape, or form. And what happens when you're restrained? It creates frustration, right? What happens when a dog gets frustrated? They start, you know, making noises and you know, like grumbling and getting pissed off by things and stuff like that. And what happens is that builds up over time until it starts just turning into those reactive behaviors in anticipation of what's going to happen, right? So you're walking down the street, and right when you even see that dog, he starts firing off because he anticipates all those feelings of how he gets when he's actually in that type of social situation. You know what I mean? Yeah. So because of that, it's usually a blanket rule that I just say that's one thing I try to cut out as much as possible. Now, in addition to that, the concept of dog parks, right? So dog parks are a really good idea in theory, right? So in theory, it's a place where you could take your dog, you can let him interact with other dogs, right? They have an outlet to do that. But the problem is where things go wrong is what the humans are doing at the dog park, right? And it's not because, like, you know, somebody's going to bring an aggressive dog there or something like that, because yes, it happens, but not as frequently as a lot of people think. But what happens is people try to do antisocial behaviors or things with their dogs at a social place, right? So in your case, you have them you have them on a leash, you're trying to do the agility equipment and stuff like that, and when the other dogs are trying to come into the space, he's getting grumpy about that. Well, one, we're already dealing with what we just talked about, the on-leash kind of greeting type of things. But in addition to that, you're trying to do something with him that's not social related in a place where he's intended to go and socialize with other dogs, right? So as you're trying to do these things and he's trying to focus on one task at hand, you have all these other dogs trying to come over and be like, hey, cool, like I'm trying to play with you, right? Or I'm trying to interact or whatever it may be. But his mind's already split because he's, you know, concerned about these dogs over here, but he can't interact with them because you're telling him, hey, don't do this, do this. Right? in addition to that, obviously we have, you know, the side of things where humans try to interact in the mix, right? So another blanket rule that I have is when I'm socializing dogs with other new dogs is I don't interact with the dogs at all, right? Socialization is sheerly about the dogs, because the problem is dogs can only understand one of two things: when we like what they're doing or when we don't like what they're doing, right? So because of that, if he's getting grumpy or if we're having problems or whatever it may be, and we start trying to interact with him, whether through eye contact, verbally, touch, any of those things, the only way he could perceive any of those things is I like what you're doing, right? Or I'm reinforcing something, right? And when they're in that state of mind of being concerned about other dogs, we're just reinforcing that, right? So because of that, I try to take a step back and I play lifeguard, and that's it, right? My job here is to make sure these two dogs don't kill each other, and that's it, right? So, you know, like I said, it's with any behavioral issue we're having, it's always 50% training the dog, right? 50% teaching a select set of skills, and it's 50% understanding why the things we're doing can be contributing to the problem, right? So, you know, like I said, that could be some of the reason why you're starting to see these behaviors come up, is not that he's dog aggressive, right, or having issues with other dogs. It could just be the situations we're trying to socialize him in and the way we're trying to socialize him, right?